Hey guys, Greg McCoy here with you with another equipment spotlight video from Hidden Gym. Today we're talking about one of the most anticipated equipment releases of the year, the brand new Hammer Strength Pendulum X Squat. This is the first unit in the state of Texas and definitely the first one in Dallas. And of course it landed right here at Hidden Gym at our newly acquired North Dallas location. We've had lifters walking in just to try this piece, and today I'm gonna break down exactly why Hammer Strength made it, what makes it different, and why this might be one of the most innovative squat machines ever built. Before we dive into the features, let me give you a little backstory. Hammer Strength debuted this machine at the HFA show in Las Vegas back in November. So it was honestly one of the main things I was looking forward to seeing at the show. The booth was right up front. I saw it immediately, and it was the first thing I went to go try. Now, lifting on machines at an expo is not really lifting on machines. I was absolutely cold, I was wearing pants, and there was a line of people waiting behind me. I think I maybe put a plate and a half on each side, just to get a feel for it, but it's really hard to judge a machine without real training. My first real experience came when we built this production unit here at Hidden Gym a couple of weeks ago, and training on heavy, or what I would call race pace, completely changed my perspective. And so this review is coming from actual hard training at full intensity, the way athletes really use the equipment. Now, some of you may remember one of our most popular equipment spotlight videos, the Arsenal Pendulum Squat review that we did all the way back in 2022. At the time, pendulum squats were actually pretty rare to find in gyms. But since that video, almost every manufacturer under the sun has come out with their own version of the pendulum squat. And honestly, most of them are Me Too products. There's tiny differences in counterbalance, arm length, foot plate size, or the angles. Well, I'll tell you, Hammer Strength did not do that. They went completely in a different direction, and the result is the Pendulum X Squat. So let's talk about the name. Why is it called Pendulum X? Well, the X stands for hip extension. And from my understanding, when Hammer Strength designs machines, they don't think about it from a body part mindset like a bodybuilder or many of us would think about, like this is gonna target the quads or the glutes or the hamstrings. They build it from a human movement perspective. And this machine was specifically focused on creating a pendulum squat, but very importantly, with hip extension. It's one of the most important movements in all of strength and power development. If you're a strength athlete, field athlete, fighter, powerlifter, hip extension is everything. It's sprinting, it's jumping, acceleration, locking out a squat, cleaning, snatching, driving through a tackle. It is the engine of athletic performance. So Hammer built a squat machine designed to transfer power efficiently, train the hips to a natural pattern, and mimic banded squats without all the setup. And we'll come back to this a few more times because it is the heart of what makes this machine different. Let's talk quickly about body part focus though, because I've done more than 1 million gym tours over all these years, and many of us, including myself, think in terms of what body part does this work. So let's not get lost in the sauce. This is still a quad dominant exercise like all pendulum squats. This will blow up your quads for sure. Now, it does recruit more glutes than a traditional pendulum because of the hip extension that we're talking about, but it's gonna be very little compared to a traditional barbell squat and nowhere near the amount of glute work you're gonna get on a hip thrust. So I'd say this fits great into a quad focused leg day or a total leg day. All right, my favorite feature of this machine, hands down, is the rotating backpad. Hammer calls it an articulating backpad, which is a very fancy way of saying this patent pending backpad moves with you as you squat. So it sinks your hips back at the bottom and then comes forward with you as you drive to hip extension at the top. When I used it hard for the first time here at the gym, I had this moment where I was like, man, this thing sticks to you. It keeps you in the perfect position the whole time, and it gives you a ton of confidence coming up out of the bottom, and just absolutely zero butt tuck, even at the furthest depth of the squat. So let's talk about what Hammer is calling the smart resistance profile. So this machine is heavier at the top of the motion, where you're the strongest, or what we may say the most advantaged, and lighter at the bottom, where you're the weakest or most disadvantaged, and lighter where you would experience the most like knee shearing or tension on the patella, like in a hack squat. Well, it's really cool because the drop off in this machine is substantial. You'll notice it big time the first time you use it. So just for easy math, it drops off 40% at low weight. So if you unracked 100 pounds, it's only gonna weigh 40 pounds at the bottom. That ratio changes as you stack on more weight. So let's say that you unracked 500 pounds, it's only gonna weigh 400 pounds coming out of the bottom. And you can actually increase that percentage by adding bands, which we'll touch on later. So for my powerlifting peeps out there, this is basically a built-in banded squat, which, as we know, Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell, popularized that decades ago. Accommodating resistance isn't new, but it's very rare to have it built into a machine. So if you're a fan of these videos, you may remember that from the Rogers Pro Squat video that we did, which, while we're talking about it, is not a pendulum squat. It's part of their pendulum line, but it's not a pendulum squat. All right, so just a quick explanation on how this happens. At the top of the squat, the weight is further from the pivot point. And as you descend, the weight's gonna move closer, making it feel lighter. Now, I don't wanna turn this into a physics video, but that is the magic behind why it feels so smooth and easier on the knees at the bottom. And just to drive home, the difference in knee pressure compared to a traditional pendulum or a hack squat is substantial. And translated, that means you can train harder more often with way less risk of knee pain or injury. So this is gonna be your thing if you really wanna do high volume legs and keep away from that knee pain. All right, one of the coolest pieces of this story is the exoskeleton design and symmetrical loading. Now, the team at Hammer told me one of Gary Jones' classic lines: if World War III happens, the only thing that'll be left is cockroaches and hammer strength machines. And that philosophy definitely went into this design. Most of the pendulum squats have one single long arm, and when lifters start adding 6, 7, 8 plates aside and adding bands, I've literally seen traditional pendulum squats so the whole arm gets twisted, which is a gym owner's nightmare. We want these things to last a decade. But Hammer built the Pendulum X with this rigid exoskeleton, and it's built around the athlete and it's loaded from both sides. So the result, when you get in there, you're not gonna feel that wiggling feeling. So added stability, the machine isn't gonna twist, and you should feel very solid and confident, which is a big win for both the user and the owner. All right, next feature is this adjustable foot plate. Now, this is groundbreaking for Hammer Strength because, believe it or not, this is the first adjustable foot plate that they've made. Over all these years, they're known for simple designs that don't need a lot of adjustment, which makes it easy to use. This is the first one that they've done. So it's got 2 settings, and the importance of the adjustable foot plate, one of the big limiting factors for people in their squat depth is ankle mobility. And the ability to be able to move this up means more users will be able to get full squat depth without the limitation of ankle mobility. So it's also one of the biggest foot plates of any of their designs. So you got a ton of room to move feet up, down, wide squats, narrow stance squats. So a lot of room and very tacky surface. So you're not gonna feel like you're gonna slip out of the machine, even at a lower angle. Next up, we're gonna talk about these band pegs. So you've got band pegs here at the front of the machine, which if you're a fan of these Equipment Spotlight series and you watch the Hammer Strength glute drive, this is not something we've traditionally seen from Hammer. Everyone's always banded Hammer machines, but not because they put pegs for it. Now they're, listening, and we've got places to attach bands. The interesting thing about the bands being here is, so this machine, as we've been talking about, it's lighter at the bottom, it gets heavier at the top. This is actually gonna exaggerate that even more. So you're gonna have more of a drop off as you drop into that squat. That band tension is gonna take more weight off of the bottom. Now, just like the glute drive, this is pretty much built for a mini band, which most gyms don't keep in stock, including ours. I don't keep mini bands here. So you're gonna have to, double, if not triple loop a traditional band size, which is fine, no big deal. It is just nice that they've added these intentional pegs for us. And why you might do that, again, if you wanna exaggerate the difference, so even lighter at the bottom, heavier as you come up, or if you're gonna use this, it's built for athletes, which like we're talking about with all this hip extension stuff. If you're really training explosive, the weight might actually jump off your shoulders. If you band this up, it's really gonna slow it down and make sure that that machine stays on you, even with explosive training. All right, just a few quick hitting features. This is the counterbalance, which is, every pendulum squat has. This is way less counterbalance than, like, if you watch the Arsenal video and you got that 100+ pound tombstone, as I called it, weighing that out. They went smaller here because the more counterbalance you have, it makes it lighter when you unrack it, and they intentionally made it heavier at the top. That's kind of the purpose of the machine. So much smaller counterbalance on this one compared to traditional pendulums. Racking and unracking, first off, it's a very easy rack and unrack, which gives you a ton of confidence. The last thing you want to do when you're under strain is be searching for how to rack this thing. So super easy, right up top by your head. You've got 3 positions here, so that adds some variety based on your height. And then super cool, you can actually shift this whole girdle up or down. So let's say you're coaching a basketball team, everybody's tall, you're unlikely going to use these bottom ones. You can shift this whole thing up so that you're not adjusting it for every player. Plate storage, again, we've got 3 pegs here for plate storage, which is good. And again, this is with the symmetrical design, you've got 3 pegs on each side. Where a lot of the pendulums are only one side you can actually store weight on. So more weight storage, which is great. Again, for users, you don't have to walk around the gym finding plates. For owners, more places to put plates. All right, and then you've got this safety stopper here, or what Hammer's calling a range of motion adjustment. Here, you can really take the machine to the bottom, which is gonna be fine for a lot of people, but for some reason, if you're super tall or wanna limit your squat depth and still have something to hit against, you can flop this guy over, and that's gonna allow you to tap the machine and take off quite a bit of the depth. All right, now let's talk about some drawbacks, because no machine is perfect. First and most obvious is the size of this thing. It's not a small machine, so gonna be, if you have limited footprint, this might not be the one that you choose. But I will say it's actually kind of deceiving. It looks bigger than it is because of this big exoskeleton that we talked about. The actual footprint is no bigger than a leg press. So I actually don't think that that's too big of a drawback. I think that's a little bit of a misconception. Second is when you unrack this thing, it already weighs 81 pounds. Now, that's not a big deal for a lot of people, but that could be a drawback for beginners or people getting started. 81 pounds is not a little amount of weight, so it's pretty heavy right out of the gate. All right, and then I would say max load capacity. This is where you put the weights on to lift. It only holds about 4 plates. So if you're squatting north of 500 pounds, you're gonna max this thing out really quickly. Like most Hammer designs, you can pull this pin out, and they sell extenders. Gym pin is the most popular. So I think it's gonna be too light for a lot of serious lifters. So that was one of the first things I noticed using this machine. All right, and lastly, and I might be jinxing myself here because it hasn't happened yet, but the last Hammer Strength products I've been buying, I'm replacing pads within a year, which I would love to get 2-3 years out of these pads. With most of the Hammer pads, I'm noticing like the structure of the pad is fine. It's the covering that wears off really, really fast. So I'm assuming I'll be replacing these shoulder pads pretty quick. So again, can't say that that's happened yet, but that's happened with quite a few of the newest Hammer stuff that I purchased. So I'm kind of expecting that to be a drawback. All right, so wrapping this up, if you want a killer lower body workout with less stress on the knees, excellent back support, and all the benefits that come with a pendulum squat with the added bonus of training full hip extension, then come visit our newest North Dallas location. Try it out, let us know what you think, and tag us on Instagram and Facebook when you come hit your first session. Drop us a comment below, tell us how you like it, and let us know what equipment you'd like us to review next. See you in the gym.
All right, so we just wrapped up our demo of the Hammer Strength pendulum squat. I gotta say, it's a lot different from other pendulum squats or hack squats that I've used. I do like it a lot. It is pretty heavy. Just be warned, 3 plates feels a lot heavier than 3 plates, especially towards the top. But what I like about that is that it allows you to really work the contracted position of the quads. So it's a little bit lighter towards the bottom, kind of like you're doing like a reverse banded hack squat or something like that. And then it's pretty heavy towards the top. Only thing that I would really change about it is just the unracking mechanism with the handle. Just the direction the handle's facing feels a little awkward. Sometimes the arm will fall back if you're in the middle of a heavy set. We had that happen once. Other than that, I do also really like how the back pad oscillates as you're going down. So you keep contact of your lower back to the squat pad the whole time that you're going down. Other squat pads you might find, or other squat machines you might find that your lower back can round off the back pad at certain points, but with this one, that does not happen.
I thought it was interesting, kind of like how at the top it's really heavy, as you go down, it's lighter, back up it's a lot heavier, so it's kind of like exponentially as you're lifting, it gets heavier and heavier, especially as you add on more plates. And I thought overall it was a really good machine. And I know some people had problems like with the unracking thing, but I didn't really, that personally didn't affect me. But I thought it was a really good machine. I thought it was really interesting to use.
Been an athlete my whole life, college football and track athlete, CrossFit, Olympic lifting, and currently national level bodybuilder. Honest opinion on the machine, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I like that the foot plate adjusts. You get two different adjustments. For those that want to do a little bit more quad focus versus maybe glute focus, you can move the foot plate, which is really nice. The back pad, I like that it rotates like this in the down position of the squat. It helps keep the lower back pressured against the pad, which I have issues with because I have tight hips. So it helps me push into that pad better versus your traditional hack squat or even pendulum squats. A couple things about the unracking thing. It's a little awkward at first, but I think you'd get used to it. Just the lever having to pull out when you stand up was a little bit awkward. And then the re-rack isn't bad, but I did notice when it gets heavy and you start driving with everything, when you flare out, if you touch that bar, it will re-rack it while you're on the movement down, so that can be a little bit iffy. But other than that, I thought it was great. I feel it everywhere. Good quad activation, good glute activation, nothing in the lower back, no inflammation, which is fantastic. So I definitely recommend the machine.
What I really like about the machine is the back pad on it. It stayed completely on my back the whole movement through. It's really smooth as well. Usually on a normal pendulum, my lower back tends to come off the pad a little bit, but on this one it was all up on the back of the pad the whole time. The one thing that I struggled with was the unracking. When I would come up from my first squat, the rack would tend to like move, and it was just constant on my mind, but just took a little bit getting used to, but it was all fine after that first rep. It reminded me a lot of doing banded squats when I did powerlifting. It's really heavy as you get up towards the top of the rep, but at the bottom it is a little bit lighter, but very quickly the weight increases very, very, very fast. But yeah, the foot placement was awesome as well. There was no sliding at the bottom. My feet were perfectly cemented into the foot pad, and overall it was a great machine, and I can't wait to use it again.